Hello everyone, James here, and today we'll be talking about episode 11 of 90 Day Fiance's Hunt for Love. Specifically about Tiffany's overly attached love interest, Carlo. A man so overly attached, in fact, that he started an actual fight with a guy just for asking Tiffany out, and now is apparently so jealous and insecure that he slept with another woman behind Tiffany's back. Lots to talk about today, and I get to talk about another very insecure man. So let's get into it. The episode starts off with a date between Tiffany and Jay, the guy Carlo got really mad at for asking Tiffany out. And although the date isn't very long, it is, however, quite creepy. Now, if you recall, up until this point, Tiffany's been seeing two guys, Carlo and Rocky. Unfortunately, her situation with Carlo hit a bit of a snag a few episodes ago when Tiffany told Carlo that she's a single mother and he wasn't sure how he felt about it. And although her situation with Rocky is still somewhat ongoing, it seemed like the two of them may be running out of steam, as Rocky has apparently been more interested in Chantel recently. So, once blessed for choice, but now considering her options, Tiffany accepted this date with Jay, a guy she's apparently been somewhat friendly with behind the scenes, but only considered each other as options very recently. An important distinction to make when you see just how awkward this is. Jay starts off the date asking her a few questions, what her priorities in a relationship are, what made her say yes to this date to begin with. Decent questions, I guess, that she's trying to have legitimate answers to, all the while doing nothing to talk about himself. When he then asks Tiffany if she'd like to do something a little adventurous. Tiffany answers honestly by saying, frankly, no. She's not a big risk taker and doesn't want to do anything dangerous. And then he gives us another generic, boring alpha male speech about how he's a real man and real men go after what they want. And follows it up with this.
If I ask you for a kiss right now, can I get one?
Tiffany's clearly uncomfortable by this question and thinks it came completely out of left field. And I'm not going to go over the whole thing, but it seems to me like she feels really awkward and kind of squirms around. I mean, she says yes to a little peck on the lips, and they do that, but then when she turns away, he gets then really close to her and starts kissing on her cheek. And you can see the much taller and more physically imposing Jay is leaning his body weight onto Tiffany, and he keeps kissing her cheek as she's kind of pushing away like, haha, but also kind of like, save me. And he just keeps going. He's basically all over her, and this just made me so uncomfortable to watch. Not only does this physical interaction in a vacuum give me the heebie-jeebies and raise some serious questions about consent, at least to me, but even the whole date prior, it feels like they've been talking for 5 minutes and he just asks her a couple generic questions, almost kind of interview style. I'm not sensing any chemistry or warmth or joking or playfulness or anything like that. And then for him to just come out the gates, you want to do something adventurous? Well, let me tell you, I'm a guy that goes after what he wants and then pulls this shit. Look, I don't know. I know these things can be edited. Maybe this was a 45-minute long date and they just spliced it together to make Jay look kind of bad here. But at least the way it's being presented, this makes me severely distrust Jay and makes me seriously question his intentions here. Super awkward, forced, questionable consent here. Certainly not the enthusiastic consent we're looking for. And after all that, he then has the gall to ask Tiffany if he's her number one option right now.
So would you say I'm in first place?
A little warning for all the viewers out there. When a guy asks these kind of questions and presents himself as this kind of alpha male, take what I want kind of person, and asks these leading questions like, am I your number one right now? So, are you interested in me? And does this lip licking shit? That's a red flag. 9 times out of 10, this guy's a player. This guy's looking for some kind of end goal or conquest. That's total red flag to me. Fortunately, Tiffany doesn't fall for it and tells Jay straight up that, at least at the moment, Carlo is still her number one. Tiffany tells us afterwards that she found this date incredibly awkward and uncomfortable. Tells us that she basically went along with it because she didn't want Jay, her friend, to feel rejected. Essentially tells us that he wasn't really paying attention to her consent.
I don't feel like Jay's considering like the vibe, I guess. And he's just trying to like either lock something down or make something happen without paying attention to like what I might want.
But on a lighter note, because this date was so bad, she was able to think about things a little bit more and realized that she truly is interested in Carlo and is excited to see him the next time to give him the good news. Later that night, most of the cast had together to meet with the events coordinator, Johannesburg, to have another round of some kind of dating games. And it's while everyone is waiting that we see Carlo talking to Chantel and Elise. Cole, who's also there, innocently asks Carlo if Tiffany's around tonight, and Carlo says yes, but that he's not exactly sure where the two of them are right now because last night, Tiffany went on this date with Jay. I guess for some reason, Tiffany hasn't told Carlo yet that the date was actually kind of a success for the two of them, and that Tiffany is now more into Carlo, so Carlo is completely in the dark here. And as we'll soon find out, he doesn't handle it very well. He then quickly changes the topic away from Tiffany.
So I'm just like not sure where we stand. So anyways.
And very awkwardly starts this whole speech to everyone about how, forget about Tiffany, Elise and I here are actually really great friends. That I was thinking, maybe she and I could be a little more than friends, you know?
Maybe I should take Elise on a date. Like, and see if we're more than friends.
Maybe I thought I would ask her out on a date. And Elise, who's sitting right next to him, is like, so are you asking me out on a date right now? Is this how you're gonna ask me out on a date, by posing a hypothetical question to a group of people right in front of me, talking about me like I'm not here? So you wanna ask me out on a date? And Carlo, stumbling through his words like a 7th grader asking a girl out for the first time, goes, oh yeah, I thought maybe if you wanted to, maybe we could go out on like a friend date, you know, as friends.
And just do a friend date?
Yeah, a friend date. The kind of date you want to go on with a friend when you want to find out if they could be something more. Yeah, that's that kind of date, right? Elise, also thinking this phrasing is a little weird, agrees to the date, but only on the stipulation that it's an actual date. And to make sure he's really certain, Elise makes Carlo get down on one knee and asks her officially.
Will you go on a real date with me?
Yes.
I'm the happiest man in the world right now.
Don't be sassy.
No, I am.
You have to be real.
I am.
This whole sequence from Carlo felt a little forced and awkward in my opinion, and I think there's a good reason for that. Because although Carlo is kind of playing it cool in this scene, acting like he's confused about Tiffany, but like it's not the biggest deal.
Tiffany went on a date with Jay last night, so I'm just like not sure where we stand. So anyways, Elise and
I don't think that could be further from the truth. Remember, this is the same guy who just a few episodes ago started a whole ass fight with a guy just for asking Tiffany out.
Honestly, bro, you're a snake. You talk a big game. Like, I'm here, I'm loud, all this stuff.
Carlo got all up in Jay's face, seemingly mad at Jay, not for asking Tiffany out on this singles retreat, because you can't really get mad at somebody for doing that, but instead making this claim that Jay's a piece of shit because the only time Jay talked to Carlo was when Jay tried to tell Carlo directly, hey, by the way, I'm interested in Tiffany and I asked her out on a date.
I literally addressed him as a grown man and let him know.
That's it, though. Like,
Yeah.
you don't say what's up besides, like, the one time.
Which to Jay, and frankly to me, kind of seemed like a sign of respect from Jay. Like he was trying to be respectful and inform Carlo of his intentions with Tiffany. But Carlo said that no, that actually makes you a piece of shit and a snake because that was the only time you talked to me.
So you feel like I'm a snake even after I came and talked to you about the situation?
100%.
Seemingly trying to imply that because the two of them didn't talk before, that the two of them weren't buddy-buddy this whole time or something, that therefore Jay is being a piece of shit.
So when I talked to you yesterday, you said it was cool, you were lying?
Dude, you saw me, bro. Like, what am I gonna say? You're a bitch. You're a bitch. You don't say what's up to me ever besides, oh, I'm going to see your girl. How the did you not know?
I didn't really see what Jay was doing wrong. Like, what, the two of you supposed to be best friends or something? Was Jay supposed to be your buddy for 2 weeks or something before he's allowed to ask Tiffany out? Didn't really make a lot of sense. Personally, I think that was one of those situations where you can't really spend too much attention on what the person is literally saying because it may not make a lot of sense. But the important part is, this whole Jay and Tiffany thing bothered Carlo so much that he almost got in an actual fist fight over it. We then heard that the night before that fight with Jay, Carlo apparently went knocking on Elise's door to vent about how confused and hurt he was over the whole situation. And Carlo was so down bad that at a different social event that day, Rob even had to approach him and ask him if he was okay. And he told us then that with everything going on, between Jay asking Tiffany out and Rocky walking Tiffany home, he's been feeling incredibly overwhelmed. And oddly, even reiterates at the time that despite all this, he's still 100% into Tiffany.
It's just a lot to handle because I'm more all in on her.
So I'm thinking, if that's how he felt about everything just a few episodes ago, and he knows that last night, Tiffany and Jay actually did go on their date, I'm guessing that even though Carlo is trying to seem a little cool about it now, in his head, he's completely freaking out. And is perhaps putting this entire show on with Elise, either to convince everyone else or Elise or convince himself that, no, Tiffany and Jay, that's fine. No, everything is fine. Like, I'm cool. I'm just so good friends with Elise, and I thought I'd ask her out. Yeah, I'm not worried about Tiffany at all. Yeah, that's kind of how it feels to me. And could help explain what we'll find out soon. The cast then gather around for the dating games, which turns out to be a spicy version of bingo, where if you have the number called out and it's one of the red boxes on your card, then you have to go up and complete a dare from the dare jar. It's all in good fun. We have Jeniffer licking some girls' earlobes, people taking body shots of each other, and it gets kind of debaucherous. Carlo gets a dare to take off one article of clothing, and because the dude is jacked out of his goddamn mind, he takes his shirt off. And now emboldened, Carlo jokingly throws his shirt at Tiffany and goes to sit next to her, which Tiffany really likes, but Chantel thinks it's kind of weird that not 10 minutes ago, Carlo claims to be confused about Tiffany and just asked Elise out, and now he takes his shirt off and immediately starts flirting with Tiffany. Who knows, but again, if you ask me, I'm thinking that maybe he takes his shirt off, feels a little bit more confident, is getting the woos of the crowd, maybe also had a couple of drinks, and now feels confident enough to pursue what he really wants, Tiffany. The next day, we see Rocky and Chantel meet up with Rob and Jen as the four of them go jet skiing. We see Tim finally muster up the courage to ask May out on a date, to which she actually says yes. And then we get the craziest scenes of the episode, where it looks like Carlo has truly gone off the deep end. Elise is hanging out in a hammock when Carlo goes to join her. The two of them hug hello, and Elise goes,
So, about last night.
What about last night, Elise?
It all happened like so fast.
You me good. You me so good.
Yes, you heard that right. Elise and Carlo hooked up last night. This caught me by complete surprise. Carlo, the guy who we've only seen interested in Tiffany since day one, gets suddenly really jealous and insecure about Tiffany going on a date with another guy, and it just so happens to be that that's when Carlo makes a move on Elise, and the two of them have sex. Yeah, I bet the two of those have nothing to do with each other, right? Elise goes on a huge rant about how they just have such a deep connection, and if it was with anybody else in the resort, she definitely would have. And Carlo, completely pretending to have as much confidence as Elise has right now, says this.
Why not?
Yeah.
My man is struggling out here. Elise mentions she doesn't want this to become a new Jeniffer, Rob, and Cole love triangle situation. Carlo agrees and says multiple times just how bad he feels about this whole thing. And I mean, just look at this guy's face.
Where does that leave us?
I mean,
He says if you asked me yesterday, then he would tell her that he's going to spend the rest of his time here on the resort with Tiffany. But if you ask him today, he's choosing Elise?
that it's gotta be you.
Elise seems to be pretty happy to hear that, and you can actually see her enthusiasm on her face, you know, like a normal person. But again, when you cut back to Carlo, even as he's asking her if she would like to continue being with Carlo for the rest of the resort, a question that he should be asking with some amount of enthusiasm or excitement, he looks like this instead.
Do you wanna be with me for the rest of this?
She says yes, 100%, but look at this guy's face.
Yeah, 100%.
He looks so not excited about this whole thing. I feel like it could be a kind of thing where Carlo was really interested in Tiffany and likely still is interested in Tiffany, but because he was really upset, he was really in his feelings, really jealous, whatever it is, he then hangs out with Elise for some kind of emotional support. Maybe the two of them get a little drunk. They then hook up, and now it looks like sober Carlo is trying to deal with and rationalize his situation by telling himself or Elise or whoever will listen that he's actually more interested in Elise, when to me, it kind of feels like this is all one big cope from Carlo. And after some joking around, the two of them agree that Carlo has to tell Tiffany the truth.
Okay, so you're gonna go talk to Tiffany and then come back and me. What?
Yes.
That's what I want.
Yes.
Oh my God.
He says he's super scared to have the conversation, passionately makes out with Elise, and then Carlo goes to break the news to Tiffany. But before Carlo arrives, Tiffany's hanging out with Joe and Cortney. They're all hanging out, talking about Courtney's love life, talking about Joe's love life, having a good time, when suddenly they hear a violent knocking on the door. Tiffany opens the door, of course it's Carlo, and when he hears that other people are in the building, Carlo suddenly acts like a deer in the headlights. I mean, look at this.
Just come.
Wait, hold on.
Close the door. What?
I'm confused.
It's like he's looking at a crime scene or something. And even as she's walking to the door, Carlo looks completely petrified and like he's considering turning around and sprinting out the door. Like, bro, what are you so scared of? I can only guess he's really nervous to have this conversation with Tiffany. And when he was psyching himself up to come over here, he didn't anticipate there being anyone else here. But it's not that big of a deal. He could still walk out there and say hi to everyone, act like everything is fine for 2 minutes, and then just politely ask, hey guys, could you guys give me a couple minutes with Tiffany alone? I wanted to talk about it. Like, you don't have to just stand there in the middle of the hallway and act like you just saw 3 fucking ghosts. Like, it's not that big of a deal, bro. Carlo finally joins them in the backyard and then asks for a private moment with Tiffany. Cortney and Joe get the message, they head inside. Tiffany's getting pretty worried right now, as would I in that situation. If someone was acting as weirdly as Carlo is right now, I would think that someone must have died. Tiffany asks Carlo if he's okay, and he says this. Yep, F us, the episode ends there. However, I do have to say, from what we've seen already, this is absolutely insane. And yet, I'm somehow not surprised. Since we were first introduced to Carlo all the way back in episode 1 this season, I've gotten the feeling that Carlo may be a fairly anxious person in his relationships. Now, for those of you who don't know, there's this whole theory in relationship psychology called attachment theory that describe and predict the way we'll handle insecurity in our relationships. There's the secure people that basically handle everything like normal people should. They're pretty boring, so we're not gonna talk about them. There's the dismissive avoidant attachment style, someone who is aloof or doesn't show their partner a lot of attention or love or energy, who seems somewhat emotionally closed off or not really present in the relationship. Maybe someone like Josh from Natalie and Josh, if you remember him. And counter to them, there's the anxious attachment style, someone that might look a bit more like Carlo. They are also insecure in their romantic attachments. They don't feel quite safe enough in their relationships, so they seek a lot from their partner. They always want more attention, more connection, more talking, more quality time, because they have this inescapable feeling that everything is going to come crashing down, or that they're going to be abandoned tomorrow. And yes, before the nerds come after me, there is a 4th attachment style called disorganized attachment style or fearful avoidant, but not relevant to this video, so you can Google that. Now, to be clear, anybody can feel insecure in their relationships at times. But when you consider the fact that Carlo is 38 years old and he gets so jealous and insecure over someone asking Tiffany out on a first date at a singles retreat to the point where he starts an actual physical fight with them. Remember how I said Carlo's explanation of why he's mad at Jay there didn't really make any sense? Well, if he has deep-rooted abandonment issues, and he doesn't interpret Jay as just a guy going out on a date with the girl, but instead perceives him as an existential threat that will ultimately lead to his emotional abandonments, an abandonment that typically comes from childhood. With men, this is commonly referred to as mommy issues. Then that kind of overblown reaction makes a bit more sense. And when he talks with Elise at the dating games, and he goes, yeah, I don't know what's going on with Tiffany. Anyway, Elise, you and I are so great together, and how about, we're gonna go out now, and he goes along with that? That doesn't feel like a very natural response to feeling a bit insecure. That feels a lot more like his potential fear of abandonment around Tiffany is so great that he needs to completely run away and distract and cope from that feeling. The fear there is just too much, so he'll distract himself with the attention, validation, and some kind of intimacy with another person as a way to cope with perceived relationship insecurities. One of the most common reasons an anxiously attached person typically cheats. Of course, I don't know Carlo, this is just a TV show and we're subject to whatever they show us in the editing, and I'm just some guy sitting in his room talking about reality TV. However, these dynamics and patterns are real. Attachment theory is very real. And my hope is that by talking about this, some of you may realize that you may have a Carlo in your own life, and maybe this better explains their behavior or better warns you that's just because they're nice to you or they seem really into you doesn't mean that they're necessarily a healthy or secure person to have a relationship with. And also hopefully help some of you out there that may identify with Carlo a little bit. After all, studies show anywhere between 20 and 40% of the population has signs of an anxious attachment style, with most of those people being women, men being more likely to be dismissive avoidant. And just because you lean towards this kind of attachment style doesn't mean you're necessarily a bad person. You may realize there's a reason for it, it comes back to your childhood, there's a pattern to it, and it's something that can be worked on. Anyway, that's all I got for today. I hope hearing this was entertaining and hopefully maybe even helpful to some of you out there. Let me know what you thought about Carlo, Tiffany, and Elise in the comments down below. Do you think I have it right with Carlo here, or do you think there's some other explanation as to why Carlo is sleeping with Elise now? A big thank you to all of you channel members, with an extra special thank you to my producer, Nancy Jones. And until next time, I'm actually traveling next week. I'll be back home, so I won't be here next week. And I'll be gone the week after getting some nose surgery. I have this breathing problem. I have both a deviated septum and enlarged turbinates, like these balloon things that when they get inflamed, they plug up your nose and then you can't really breathe. So I'm getting surgery to hopefully fix both of those problems and help me actually sleep at night properly. So I'll be out for just the next 2 weeks of videos, and I should be back the third week after that. So it'll be a little bit. I'll miss you all, and I hope you all be good in the meantime. So I'll see you next time.